You must sow these seeds in November. 10 winter crops for smart gardeners. Hey there, plant lovers. Welcome back to Earthly Delights, where green dreams grow even in the coldest months. You know, most people think November is the time to pack away their gardening gloves, store the watering cans, and say goodbye to the soil until spring. But you and I, we see it differently, don't we? Because real gardeners, whether you tend a cozy balcony jungle, nurture pots on your sunny windowsill, or care for a small backyard patch, we know that nature never truly sleeps. November isn't the end of your garden. It's a quiet invitation. Beneath the chill, there's magic happening. Seeds waiting for a whisper of frost before they awaken stronger, sweeter, and far more resilient than those sown in spring. This is the month of patient growers, of people who love watching small things become something beautiful. So if you've ever wondered what you can still plant right now, or how to turn cold days into a head start for next year's harvest, you're exactly where you need to be. Because today I'll show you the 10 incredible seeds you must sow in November, even if your garden is just a row of pots on your window ledge. So grab a warm drink, settle in, and let's unlock November's hidden season of growth together. And hey, if you love discovering new ways to bring more life into your home and garden, don't forget to subscribe to Earthly Delights. You'll never see November the same way again. Part 1, Fast Wins for Quick Confidence. Before we dive into each seed, let's set the stage. November isn't about grand harvest yet. It's about momentum. These first crops are your confidence builders, the ones that remind you how alive your garden still is, even in the chill. Whether you're tending a few pots indoors or a small raised bed outside, these fast-growing greens will reward your care in just a few short weeks. Let's begin with the mighty little radish. 1. Radish is the instant gratification crop. If you're the kind of gardener who loves seeing results fast, radishes are your perfect November companion. They're the thrill seekers of the plant world. Bold, quick, and endlessly satisfying. While most crops slow down in the cold, radishes come alive. The cool November air coaxes them into crisp, mild perfection, giving you harvest ready. Roots in as little as 3 to 4 weeks. You see, radishes hate the heat of summer. In warm soil, they grow woody and harsh, but in the gentle chill of late autumn, they develop that juicy crunch and subtle sweetness that makes you want to pluck one straight from the earth and bite into it right there. This is why November is their golden hour. The soil stays moist longer, the air is calm, and the bugs are gone. No battles, no stress, just pure growing energy. To plant, loosen your soil until it feels light and crumbly. Radishes need space to stretch. Sow each seed about ½ inch deep and 1 inch apart. If you're using a container, choose one at least 6 inches deep with drainage holes at the bottom. Shallow pots dry out too quickly, and soggy soil suffocates their roots. Water gently with a fine mist, not a heavy pour. Think of it as refreshing morning dew, not a downpour. Here's a little trick. Mix your seeds with a handful of sand before sowing. It spreads them evenly, preventing overcrowding and giving each root the space it needs to form perfectly. Within just a week, you'll see tiny green shoots pushing. 2. Spinach, the chill lover's green. If radishes are the garden's quick spark, spinach is its calm, steady heartbeat. This leafy green absolutely thrives in the cool, gentle days of November. While other plants struggle to survive the falling temperatures, spinach sees the chill as an invitation to grow stronger, tastier, and more tender. In fact, if you've ever tried growing spinach in summer and wondered why it bolted too soon, shooting up flowers before you could even harvest, that's because it secretly belongs to this season. November gives spinach everything it loves: moist soil, soft sunlight, and cool air that keeps it from overheating. It's a crop that rewards patience but doesn't demand perfection. Whether you're growing in a large garden bed or a small container on your balcony, spinach will adapt as long as you give it a bit of love and attention. Start by loosening your soil or preparing your potting mix. Spinach roots don't like compacted ground, so keep it light and airy. A blend of compost and perlite works beautifully if you're gardening in containers. Sow each seed about ½ an inch deep and 1 inch apart, covering lightly with soil. Not too much, just enough to keep the moisture in and the light out. Here's something first-time spinach growers often miss. Don't overwater. In cool weather, soil holds moisture longer, so it's better to keep it slightly damp than constantly wet. A gentle misting once the surface begins to dry is perfect. Think of spinach as a plant that enjoys a drink, not a bath. With it, 3. Lettuce, the winter salad star. If spinach is the quiet overachiever of November, lettuce is the graceful artist, delicate, colorful, and endlessly refreshing. There's something almost poetic about growing lettuce when the world outside feels dull and gray. While trees lose their leaves, your garden begins to gain them. Tender, vibrant, and full of promise. November's cool temperatures are not a setback for lettuce. They're an invitation for perfection. Lettuce loves the chill. The crisp air keeps the leaves sweet and prevents them from turning bitter, while the shorter days, slow growth just enough to make the texture beautifully soft. And because the cold chases away most pests, you can grow lush, healthy greens without constant worry or chemical sprays. It's one of the easiest, most rewarding crops to grow, even if you've never planted a seed before. To start, loosen your soil or prepare a shallow container. Lettuce doesn't need much depth, just rich, soft earth. Mix in a bit of compost for nutrients. And if you're growing indoors, make sure your container has good drainage. Scatter your seeds lightly across the surface and cover them with no more than a 1/4 inch of soil. Lettuce seeds need light to germinate, so burying them too deep can delay or even stop sprouting. Water gently, misting the soil instead of soaking it. In just a week or so, you'll start to see tiny green threads pushing through the surface. Delicate but determined, place them where they can get plenty of it. 4. Carrots, the sweet roots of the cold. Now that your fast-growing greens are thriving, it's time to turn our attention underground to one of the most rewarding crops of the cold season, carrots. While summer carrots often grow fast and fiery, November-grown carrots are something truly special. The cold air slows them down just enough to let the roots store sugar, giving you that unmistakable sweetness and crunch that makes every bite taste like sunshine hidden beneath the frost. Carrots are nature's quiet workers. They don't demand attention, they don't need fancy care, but they reward patience like few other plants can. As the temperature drops, the plant protects itself by converting starch into sugar. That's why carrots grown in the cool of late autumn are richer in flavor and softer in texture than those rushed through summer heat. To begin, prepare your soil carefully. Carrots love soft, loose earth where their roots can stretch freely. If the soil is too heavy or full of stones, your carrots will twist and fork instead of growing straight. Break up the top 10 inches of soil, removing pebbles and adding a bit of compost for nutrition. But avoid fresh manure. It can cause the roots to split. Sow your seeds about 1/2 inch deep in neat, shallow rows. Sprinkle them lightly. Carrot seeds are tiny, and it's easy to sow too many. If you're growing in containers, make sure they are at least 10 to 12 inches deep to give the roots room to develop. After sowing, gently 5. Kale, the sweet warrior of winter. If there's one crop that truly laughs in the face of cold weather, it's kale. While most plants shy away from frost, kale stands tall, its dark green leaves shimmering, like armor against the chill. And here's the wonderful secret, that frost doesn't hurt kale, it improves it. The cold triggers the plant to produce sugars as a natural defense, transforming its flavor from earthy and bitter to sweet and tender. This is why November is the moment kale was made for. Think of kale as the winter warrior of your garden. It doesn't flinch when nights get frosty, and it thrives on neglect. If you're the kind of gardener who gets busy, forgets a watering or two, or has limited sunlight through the winter months, kale is your perfect partner. It's forgiving, dependable, and surprisingly generous once it takes root. To start, loosen your soil deeply or prepare a container at least 10 inches deep. Kale loves soil that drains well, but holds enough moisture to stay cool and soft. Add compost to enrich the base, because this leafy hero needs nutrients to build strong, flavorful leaves. Sow your seeds about 1/2 inch deep, spacing them roughly 8 to 12 inches apart. If you're growing in pots, 1 or 2 plants per container is plenty. Water gently to settle the seeds, then let them rest in their cool November bed. In about a week or 2, you'll see sturdy little shoots pushing through the surface, tiny, green soldiers ready to take on winter. 6. Peas, the gentle climbers of the cold. If kale is the warrior of winter, then peas are the quiet dreamers, humble, delicate, but full of hidden strength. They don't rush, they don't demand. They simply climb toward the light even when the air is cold and the days are short. November is one of the most overlooked yet perfect months to plant peas because what they love most is cool soil and calm weather. While others think winter is for rest, peas are busy building the roots that will explode Into lush vines and sweet pods come spring. The beauty of peas is that they thrive on patience. When you sow them in November, they use the winter to slowly establish their foundation. Then the moment the days begin to lengthen, they surge upward, faster and stronger than spring-sown crops. You'll have fresh peas to pick weeks before everyone else even sees their first bloom. To start, choose a sunny or partly sunny spot, somewhere that catches a few hours of daylight each day. Peas are easygoing, but they hate soggy soil, so good drainage is key. If you're growing them in containers, pick one that's at least 10 inches deep and make sure it has holes at the bottom. Fill it with a light, rich mix of compost and sand or perlite to keep the roots comfortable. Sow your seeds about 1 inch deep and 2 inches apart, then gently press the soil down over them. Peas like company, so plant them in small groups. They'll use each other for support as they grow. Right after sowing, give them a gentle watering to settle the soil. Then resist the urge to fuss. Peas prefer to 7 broad beans, the powerhouses of the cold. If you've ever doubted that plants can thrive in the coldest months, broad beans are here to prove you wrong. These sturdy, deep-rooted champions don't just survive the chill, they embrace it. While tender summer crops retreat, broad beans stand tall and determined, quietly growing beneath the gray skies of November. They're the hard workers of the winter garden, building strength underground so they can burst into bloom long before spring even arrives. Broad beans, also known as fava beans, are wonderfully tough. Their thick seeds and strong stems are designed for this season. The cold soil that discourages other seeds is exactly what they need to germinate slowly but surely. And as they grow, they enrich your garden, fixing nitrogen into the soil and preparing it for next year's crops. It's a beautiful cycle of giving and growing, nature's quiet teamwork at its finest. To plant, start by finding a sunny or partly sunny spot. Broad beans adore light, but they also tolerate the soft shadows of winter afternoons. If you're using containers, go for something deep, at least 12 inches, because these plants love to stretch their roots down. The soil should be well-draining but rich, so mix in compost or aged manure to give them a good start. Sow each seed about 2 inches deep and 8 inches apart in rows or clusters. Press the soil gently over them, water thoroughly once, and then let them be. Broad beans don't like sitting in soggy soil, so only water again when the surface starts to dry. Their thick shells protect them from the damp. And 8. Garlic, the winter investment. If there's one plant that defines the wisdom of patient gardening, it's garlic. You plant it now in the quiet cold of November, when the garden seems asleep. And months later, you'll harvest plump, fragrant bulbs that make every meal taste like summer. Garlic isn't a crop for the impatient. It's a lesson in trust. You bury it once, forget about it for a while, and when the world wakes again, it rewards you with something deeply satisfying. A harvest that started when everyone else had stopped. Garlic loves the chill. It thrives when planted before winter settles fully in, using the cold months to grow. Strong roots beneath the surface. The cool soil allows the cloves to anchor deeply and build strength without rushing into leafy growth too soon. By the time spring arrives, your garlic will already be well established and ready to surge upward with new energy. To plant, choose healthy, firm bulbs, not soft or sprouting ones from the supermarket. Separate the cloves gently, keeping their papery skins intact. Each clove is a future bulb, so treat it carefully. Pick a sunny spot with loose, well-draining soil, or use a deep planter box if space is limited. Garlic dislikes heavy, wet soil. Too much water can cause rot. Plant each clove pointed end up, about 2 inches deep and 6 inches apart. Cover with soil and water thoroughly once to settle them in. After that, let the weather do most of the work. Rain and frost will come, but garlic doesn't mind. In fact, it welcomes the cold as part of its growing cycle. Here's a trick seasoned garden. 9. Onions, the quiet builders of the garden among all November crops. Onions are perhaps the most underestimated. They don't rush, they don't show off, but they reward patience with flavor that forms the backbone of every kitchen. While other plants boast their bright leaves and quick harvests, onions quietly prepare for the long game. When you plant them now, you're not just growing food, you're laying a foundation for next season's success. November is the perfect time to sow onions because they love cool, steady weather. The chilly air and moist soil help them develop strong, deep roots before the true cold of winter arrives. By the time spring rolls around, your onions will already be established underground, ready to shoot up with confidence as soon as the light returns. You can grow onions from tiny bulbs called sets or from seeds. For beginners, sets are easier. They're like mini onions waiting to mature. Choose firm, dry sets without soft spots. If you're growing from seed, scatter them thinly in rows or trays to start, then transplant once they've sprouted a few inches tall. Either way, your future harvest starts with healthy, well-prepared soil. Onions hate compacted ground. They like space and air around their roots. Loosen your soil to a depth of at least 8 inches and mix in compost or aged manure for nutrients. If you're growing in containers, make sure they're deep enough and well-draining. Onions dislike sitting in water. Plant sets pointed end up, about 1 inch deep and 4 inches apart. If you're working with seeds, cover them lightly with soil, just enough to keep them snug. After planting, water gently to settle the soil. Tend parsley, the humble hero of winter herbs. If garlic is the patient elder of the garden, parsley is its quiet companion. Modest, reliable, and always ready to add life to your table. Too often overlooked in the rush to plant bigger, flashier crops, parsley quietly proves its worth when the cold settles in. November, with its cool days and moist soil, is one of the best times to sow this resilient herb. It thrives in the chill, taking its time to germinate, then rewarding you with lush, fragrant leaves all through winter and beyond. Parsley is the kind of plant that seems to reflect its gardener. Steady, nurturing, and content to grow slowly. It doesn't need much, just consistency and care. While most herbs fade when temperatures drop, parsley remains strong, its leaves holding their vibrant green color even through frost. In fact, a light chill makes its flavor richer and its texture more tender. To start, soak the seeds in warm water for a few hours before planting. This softens their tough outer shells and helps them germinate faster. A small act of patience that pays off beautifully. Choose a spot with soft, rich soil, or fill a medium-deep container with compost-rich potting mix. Parsley loves moisture but hates soggy roots, so make sure your soil drains well. Sow the seeds about 1/4 inch deep and gently press the soil over them. Water lightly to settle them in, then wait. Parsley takes its time, sometimes up to 3 weeks before you see the November secret garden, and there you have it. 10 incredible crops that prove November isn't the end of gardening. It's the beginning of something deeper. While most people see bare branches and fading color, you now know the truth. Beneath the akashoit, cold soil, life is still pulsing. Garlic and onions building quiet strength. Kale and spinach sweetening with frost. Parsley, radishes, and peas standing bright against the gray. Every seed you plant this month is a small act of hope, a promise whispered into the earth that spring will return. And when it does, your garden will already be thriving. What makes November special is not just the crops themselves, but the way they connect you to nature's rhythm. Gardening in the cold teaches patience. It reminds us that growth doesn't always happen fast or loud. Sometimes it's silent, happening just below the surface, waiting for the right moment to bloom. So as you pull on your gloves and feel that cool soil between your fingers, remember this: you're not tending a sleeping garden, you're tending possibilities. With every clove of garlic, every tiny lettuce seed, every humble pea, you're shaping a living story that will continue long after winter ends. And when those first green shoots appear through the frost, you'll know your effort, your care, your faith in quiet growth, it all mattered. That's the magic of November gardening. It rewards those who keep believing in life, even when the world looks still. If today's journey through the November garden inspired you, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments below, which of these crops will you be sowing this month? Are you planting in